Madison, Zoom, yeah, books, that's one to get rid of.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. We ready? Good enough?
I'm ready.
Your mic on, all that stuff?
Everything's on.
I was looking for the green light. Now I'm seeing it's like a yellow light. That might be an eyeball thing for me.
It is an app.
Okay. I'm like, could be my television issue. I
It's
just
you.
always use a light on. So, all right. Good morning, everyone. For the record, I'm Chris Heppelf, Chair for the Fire Policy Committee. Go ahead and call the Fire Policy Committee for August 27th of 2025 to order at 0901. With that, I'm going to go ahead and, we're here at DPSST at Adamsville Highway. I'll go ahead and start with an administrative announcement. This is a public meeting, subject to public meeting law, and it will be digitally recorded. Deliberation of issues will only be conducted by the Fire Policy Committee members, unless permitted by the chair. Remember to always state your name for the record. For cases dealing with denial or revocation, only information contained in the staff report can be considered once the staff report is adopted. Assumptions, outside knowledge, or personal experiences should not be included in any discussion. Individuals who engage in disruptive behavior which impedes official business will be asked to stop being disruptive or leave the meeting. Additional measures may be taken to have disruptive individuals removed if their continued presence poses a safety risk to the other persons in the room or makes it impossible to continue with the meeting. With that, I'll move on to agenda item number 1. If Madison, you could call for the roll, and please, when you do the roll, if individuals could announce the agency they represent. Madison?
Committee member Heppel.
Present, Oregon Fire Chiefs Association.
Committee member McGrew.
Present, Oregon Office State Fire Marshal.
Evidently not.
Committee member Carragher.
President or representing the Oregon Volunteer Firefighters Association.
Committee member Morneau.
Present, Oregon Fire District Directors Association.
Committee member Douglas.
President, Oregon Fire Training Association.
Committee member Lindauer.
Present, public member.
Committee member McLennan.
Present, non-management firefighter.
Committee member Denny.
Present.
Amazing. You have a quorum.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We'll move on to agenda item number 2, which is approval of the minutes for the February 26th, 2025 minutes. Have folks had an opportunity?
Yes.
Okay. And if they have, are there any requests for modifications? Hearing none, I'm looking to confirm simply through a consensus from the committee of the previous meeting minutes. So I can just look on the line, thumbs up or head nod looks good. I'm getting that online as well. So we have consensus approved for the meeting. All right, and there were no changes. Moving on to agenda item number 3. So this will be, I'm going to introduce Brooke to present the Fire Policy Committee on the discretionary case review.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brooke Valley Review for the record. So this is just a discretionary case review of why we review cases and how they end up before the Fire Policy Committee. So the first page in your book just explains the process. So if we receive an application or an E1 form for fire certification and find that the firefighter has a felony conviction which occurred in the last 10 years from the date we received the application, we will bring any non-Measure 11 felony convictions before the committee for review. If we receive an application or E1 form and the individual has a conviction of a misdemeanor that occurred within the last 5 years, the crime or conviction has to include one of the following circumstances to qualify for review, which would be dishonesty or deceit, a sexual offense, a drug offense, discrimination, destruction of property, a crime against a public agency, involves illegal use or possession of a deadly weapon, or abuse, violence, or neglect against a person or an animal. Once staff confirms that the case meets these parameters, we will prepare a staff report to present to the committee. The firefighter will be invited to present verbal and/or written mitigation if they choose to. The committee will discuss the case in its entirety and determine to adopt or return the staff report. If adopted, the committee will make a recommendation to take action or no action to deny or revoke the firefighter's certification, and then the case will go to the board for affirmation. In this process, the firefighter is also given the opportunity to request an administrative hearing before an administrative law judge if their certifications are denied or revoked, to give them due process. Are there any questions on this process? With that, I will turn it back over to you for number 4.
Okay, so agenda item number 4, so this will be the case of Sean Mullen, DPSST number 21394. So, you going to get the mitigator at this point? And read the instructions?
Yeah, Kayla, if you want to go grab him.
Okay. Still going to give it 1 minute warning.
You guys got new cameras. You, wasn't there just one before? Oh, there's 2 here. Yeah.
Moving
Yeah,
up in
we
the
shifted
world.
to 2 a little while ago.
Yep, that's what they do.
Morning.
Bring
Morning.
us closer to us is better, yeah.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Captain Mullen. So, for the record, I'm Chris Hubble. I'm chair of the Fire Policy Committee. Thanks, I'm just going to provide some instructions. We'll then introduce the case, and then we'll move forward with your testimony. Okay?
Yep.
Captain Mullen, you're going to have 5 minutes to present your statement to the Fire Policy Council or Committee. There will be no questions or conversation between the Fire Policy Committee and the mitigator. Once the time is up, the committee will discuss your case. You may stay for the discussion and the vote, or you may exit. In that 5 minutes, we'll go ahead and give you a 1 minute warning so you know as you're approaching the end. With that, I'll turn it back over to DPSST staff for introduction of the case.
Thank you. Brook Valley Review for the record. This case is for Sean Mullen. In December of 2025, DPSST received an application for certification for Sean Mullen. During our routine background check, staff discovered that Mullen had a criminal conviction in his history. In February of 2024, Mullen was convicted of driving under the influence of intoxicants and reckless driving. Both are Class A misdemeanors in Oregon. This case requires review by the Fire Policy Committee because the conviction occurred within the last 5 years and involved property damage. The following is a summary of the incident leading to Mullen's arrest and conviction. On December 7th of 2023, police responded to a motor vehicle accident involving Mullen. According to the police report, Mullen made a left turn from a non-turning lane and struck an oncoming vehicle. Mullen cooperated with law enforcement and admitted to making the turn. When asked about his alcohol consumption, Mullen confirmed he had been drinking, although declined to specify the amount. He participated in a field sobriety test and 2 breathalyzer tests, which measured his blood alcohol content at 0.20%. Mullen was arrested and transported without incident. Staff found the following as relevant circumstances for consideration. Mullen was certified and affiliated with Clackamas County Fire District Number 1 at the time of the incident. He was cooperative with law enforcement and honest about his consumption of alcohol. The details of the incident in the police reports differ in the 2 different police reports. One stating that he ran a red light and one stating that he waited until the light turned green. Both do convey that there was an incorrect turn made, which was the ultimate cause of the collision. Mullen is on probation until February 7th of 2026, and he has completed his court-ordered substance abuse treatment and community service hours. And an update to your book, as of August 4th, 2025, he has paid all his court fines and fees. So you will now have 5 minutes to present a statement, and I will start a timer and then I'll give you a 1-minute warning, okay?
Thank you.
When you're ready.
Okay. Thank you for taking the time today. Appreciate it. I'm not the best public speaker in the world. I talk fast and mumble, so please forgive me. I'm nervous. I just want to stress that I'm here, obviously, because this is important to me, as was submitting the documentation, as well as physically being here, making sure that it's here on time, early, in the parking lot at 8 o'clock in the morning. Got off work early, so I don't take this lightly in any stretch of the imagination. So I want to impress that upon you. Sorry, I'm referencing a few notes I made. I don't want to forget anything. And I wasn't sure fully what to expect, but this is it. There's a lot of you in here, so that's nerve-wracking as well. I certainly hope I've done everything I can do to impress upon you that I do not want to have any kind of revocation or impact on my search. My career, those certifications are part of my career, are very important to me. So I hope I impress it upon you. This whole situation, this as well as the whole thing, since this one has been an incredible learning opportunity for all of it. The process, about myself, about a lot of aspects of this, but mostly it's been humbling and humiliating, and having to face my peers every day that know this happened, especially on calls that involve Deweys. It's hard to face, let alone facing my son and other friends where this has impacted my life in that regard as well. It's something I deal with every day. With regard to my documentation I submitted, the letter I wrote, I hope you all took time to read it. And I'm hoping I took a lot of time and care to make sure that contained the tone, the information that I thought was appropriate, and the way I felt about the situation. Regarding my letters and references, this isn't meant to come off as bragging at all. I submitted 5. I thought that was appropriate. I could have done more, but I had a divorce custody evaluation deal years ago where I did the opposite, submitted a lot, and that tone wasn't well received. So I went just with the 5 I submitted from co-workers and friends of mine. Another part of this process, the situation, is that as pardon my French, as crappy as it is, there's a sense of me that gives thanks for all of it, on two fronts. One, the personal, professional side of things that I've learned from my mistake is huge. The way I've learned, professionally, personally, philosophically, social-wise, what I've learned about alcohol, as dumb as it sounds, and I mentioned my letter, it's taken me 54 years to recognize that one drink starts a spiral of really bad, dumb decisions, to include that night. And so it's been a learning opportunity for me, and I'm thankful for that. More importantly, I'm thankful for what didn't happen, and I deal with it every day. I've played that night over and what could have happened 1,000 times. The fact that I could have severely injured or killed persons or people or myself, that weight's a big deal. The fact that I made that mistake that night, and that I did that, not somebody else, not some call that I'm on, is huge and weighs on me every day. And it's hard to straight face, honestly, my son and my peers, as I mentioned before, with regard to that. So I'm thankful for what didn't happen. And I'm sad that what did happen, but I'm thankful for what didn't, more importantly. And lastly, I'm here, to show how important this is to me, but also ask for leniency. It's self-serving for sure. That said, I am very good at my job. I serve our people, my fellow firefighters, our citizens, my patients, the taxpayers, my internal, external customers, the people I work with. I think I serve them very well. And not that somebody else couldn't do as good a job, but I think I do a good job in that regard. But mostly I'm asking for leniency for self-serving. I love my job. I love my career. We've done it for over 30 years. I like doing the job. I like teaching. I like the management aspect of it. I like the people aspect of it. And I don't want to have any impact on that. It's been impacted, obviously. I'm here. But I would not have any further impact on that. So I asked for leniency. Thank you. So I asked for leniency. Additionally, it's hard for me to pivot at this point in time and choose some other career, do something different. Also self-serving, but I've got some financial responsibilities. My son, Got him half the time, single divorced dad, got responsibilities to his mother as well for financial responsibilities, so I hate to impact that as well. On that note, I just want to press upon you that, it did happen. I'm sorry it happened. I hope you believe that. Hope you understand it will never happen for me ever again, not in any way, shape, or form, and that I value my career, my position, my job, and I value your guys' time and giving attention to this matter. So with that, thank you. I appreciate it.
So now, we'll turn it over to the chair to lead the rest of the process, which, as a reminder, will be consensus to adopt or return the staff report, discussion of the case in its entirety, which will include aggravating and mitigating circumstances, and then a final recommendation with a vote of no action or action for the board.
For the record, Chris Heppel, Chair. So we'll start with that first, the first piece with adopting the record. So I'll be looking for either one to adopt the record or return the case if additional information is needed. With that, I'll look to the group or the committee. Is there any additional information required that would need to send this back to the staff for additional information? Hearing none, I'll just look for a consensus from the committee to adopt the record. I'll look just around the room, thumbs up on screen or, okay. And for the record, we do have consensus to adopt the record. With the record adopted, we'll move to a discussion of aggravating and mitigating factors. I'll open up the case for discussion and remind folks to state your name prior to identifying any aggravating or mitigating factors. So at this time, I've opened up the case for that.
Yeah, Isaac McLennan, for the record. For me, it stood out, there was some pretty damaging, aggravating factors. Just the amount of alcohol that was, must have been consumed to have such a high blood alcohol level, and then to drive. I think that's, for myself as a firefighter, that's a pretty alarming, amount of alcohol. But I think there's a lot of mitigating factors. Number one, Captain Mullen sincerely in his letter and here in person has demonstrated to me that he understands the gravity of the situation, and I believe him to have full understanding of the fact that that's not something that he would ever do again. And so that's for me, what stood out. I think he is service to his community, service to his family, service to his brothers and sisters, and fellow firefighters in the firefighter community, as well as his volunteerism. It stands out to me that he's a quality individual who deserves continued service.
Thank you. Claire?
Claire McGrew for the record. Just to add to some of Isaac's comments as well about mitigating circumstances. I think lots of cooperation and honesty with law enforcement when there was a direct interaction there. In fact, I believe that it was Mr. Mullen that had contacted 911 and had actually had drawn their attention to that as well. And I also feel like there's some mitigating circumstances with responsibility and some learning that has occurred from the act that occurred as well. Thank you.
Andre Lindauer for the record. We have had other people show up before this committee, and they have been 21, they have been 23. They have done some acts of youthful indiscretion. This firefighter is 55. We can assume that the brain was fully formed. We can assume that he knew what he was doing, and he should have known better. We look to our public safety professionals to take care of us and make sure that we are okay. The blood alcohol level of 0.20, twice the legal limit, and still there's no little voice in the back that says, call an Uber, give my keys to someone else. In the mitigation letter, said something to the effect of, after only one drink, I realized that but the blood alcohol level was 0.20. In the mitigating letter, he said, I pled guilty. But if I look at the record, the original plea was not guilty, and it took 2 months to change it to a guilty plea. So I'm a little concerned about that. As for mitigating factors, overwhelming support letters, and I hope that he can continue to rely on these people and keep them in his life so they can keep him where he should be. Thank you.
The other members on mitigating or aggravating factors?
Rose Douglas for the record. I have some mitigating and aggravating, but just, I'm pretty sure I'm right, but clarification, if he'd been pulled over before he made that turn and had got the DUI, it would not have come before this committee, correct?
I mean, as long as there was no dishonesty,
Sure.
as long as there was not another circumstance involved, it came before the committee specifically
Due to the property
because
damage.
of the collision.
So for me, I, along with Isaac and Claire, and what everybody said, an aggravating is certainly for me the level of the blood alcohol content. I do struggle a little bit feeling like it's applying an unfair standard, whereas anybody who drove with that blood alcohol contact has the potential of just what he said to do serious harm to people or even up to death. That potential's there no matter what. So it's a little hard for me to look just at that, just because somebody else who did that, who just got lucky, would not necessarily be sitting before us if they behaved the same way and admitted to it and been very honest with law enforcement. So that's a little bit of a mitigating circumstance for me, because I feel that's the most serious part of this. Some aggravating is certainly that he was employed as a leader in the fire service, not just a firefighter, and that's a really big deal that I don't think has been really pointed out yet, that's very aggravating circumstance. Looking at the certifications he has and everything, you would hope that the behavior and the decisions would reflect what we would expect from our fire service leaders. Mitigating the honesty, behaving appropriately as you would expect from an officer once the accident occurred is mitigating. So calling 911, being honest, making sure that everything was taken care of appropriately would be mitigating for me.
Thank you. Any other members on aggravating or mitigating factors? Last call, mitigating or aggravating factors in this case. With that, I'll turn it back over to DPSST staff to recall all the factors that were identified by members.
Thank you. Brooke Belly-Reby for the record. So for the aggravating circumstances, we have the amount of alcohol consumed that contributed to such a high blood alcohol content that he ultimately should have known better given his age and experience in the fire service. His original plea of not guilty, that he could have caused serious harm or death to someone else or himself, and that he is a leader in the fire service. For mitigating circumstances, that his verbal mitigation and demonstration of understanding the gravity and effect of his actions, that he wants to be of service to his fellow firefighters and community, that he was cooperative with law enforcement, that he called 911 and ultimately behaved as appropriately as possible in this incident, and he has taken responsibility for his actions. The letters of support from his peers and friends, and then also the the general circumstances of the way that the rules are written, it does leave some similar instances more up to chance. So as Rose was saying, we wouldn't consider this for some people in a similar kind of situation had it been slightly different. Are there any that I missed? Any that anybody wants to add?
Okay. Chris Heppel for the record. At this point, or at this time, I'll look for confirmation of consensus that the committee has consensus on the identified factors. I'll look on screen just for a thumbs up or nod. Okay, and it appears we have it in the room, so confirm consensus of the identified factors. Last action here is to recommend action or no action in this particular case. I'll call for a motion and a second to take action or no action.
Isaac Lemon, I make a motion for no action.
Okay, I have a motion for no action. Is there a second?
Jack Carragher, I'll second.
I have a second by Jack Carragher. Any discussion on the motion?
Phil Castle for the record. Can I ask that when you make your motion, you say why, please? For the record, yeah.
Absolutely, I'm happy to state why. I just wasn't sure of the process, but on that, would it be more appropriate to make the motion and then state it, or wait for the second and then go back in?
Phil Castle for the record. Make the motion and then state it, state why.
Got it. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. Isaac McLennan for the record. I made a motion to support no action because I believe that given the balance between the aggravating and mitigating factors, it's clear to me that Captain Mullen not only immediately sort of took action after that incident, but has, by and large, accepted and responsibility. I'm sure, and I'm only to assume in his own agency has also faced some sort of investigation. He's currently still employed by his employer. His demonstrating his selflessness in his community, not only his community service, in advance of this, but now and into the future. I'm only to assume because of his passions. He clearly has demonstrated to me that he's fit to continue to serve. I think he understands the gravity of this situation, and I believe he would never do it again. That's why I'm making the motion for no action.
I will maintain my second for the same reasons.
Okay, and for the same, Chris Heppel for the record, same actions as previously expressed. With that, I'll turn it over to DP. Is there any further discussion before I turn it over to staff? Hearing none, I'll turn it over to DPSST staff to call for the roll vote.
Maxine Hockett for the record. This vote is to take no action on Sean Milligan's case. We'll start with Committee Member Heppel.
Aye.
Committee Member McGrew.
Aye.
Committee Member Carragher.
Aye.
Committee Member Morneau.
Aye.
Committee Member Douglas.
Aye.
Committee Member Member McLennan. Committee Member Denny.
Aye.
From Lindauer. Lindauer, can you let us know?
Your voice is breaking up. Sorry. Aye.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Motion carried for no action.
That concludes the agenda item number 4, which is the case of DPSST 21394.
Thank you. I will give you a call after the meeting.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Okay, next we'll move on to agenda item number 5, which is the case of, looks like Andrew Laurie, DPSST number 42329. I believe we have no mitigators in this case, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, with that, I will ask DPSST staff, Brooke, if you could introduce the case.
Thank you. Brooke Belliarivi for the record. So the Fire Policy Committee initially reviewed this case on August 23rd of 2023. Lori became eligible to reapply for certification and go before the Fire Policy Committee review process again in October of 2024. DPSST received a new application for certification in February of 2025, which triggered this second review. Initially, staff received an application for Andrew Laurie on May 30th of 2023, and during our routine background check, we found that Laurie had a criminal conviction in his history. On April 19th, 2023, Laurie pled guilty to and was convicted of criminal mischief in the second degree, which is a Class A misdemeanor in Oregon. This case requires review by the committee because it involves property destruction, and his conviction still falls within the 5-year look-back period. The following is a summary of the incident that led to Laurie's arrest and conviction. In June of 2022, a Happy Valley code enforcement officer confronted Laurie about skating in a park without a helmet, which violated the city ordinance. According to the report, Laurie was uncooperative and left the park, heading towards his car parked in front of the officer's marked city vehicle. While the officer was speaking with others in the park, he heard the sound of air escaping from a tire and saw Laurie walking towards his own car away from the city vehicle. The vehicle's dash cam captured Laurie approach the truck with a sharp object. Moments later, the truck sank to one side due from the loss of air in the tire. Laurie was later identified and contacted by police from photographs of his license plate. Staff found the following as relevant circumstances for consideration. Laurie was not certified or affiliated with the fire agency at the time of this incident. He has remained an active member of Cannon Beach Rural Fire Protection District since his previous committee review. He was uncooperative with the code enforcement officer, and police did have a difficult time locating and contacting him. He has paid his court fines and fees and completed his probation as well as his community service for this incident. And with that, I will turn it back over to the chair.
Great. Chris Heppel for the record. For this case, we'll do the same thing. One is adopt the record. We'll then discuss aggravating and mitigating factors, and then if we continue, we'll be recommending action or no action. With that, we'll look for the consensus for adopting the record. Does anyone have a reason to return the case back to staff for additional information? Again, any reason to return the package or the information back to staff for additional information? Hearing none, I'll look for a consensus to adopt the record as presented. Look on screen there for a nod or thumbs up. Okay, thank you very much. Just looking in the room, committee members. And for the record, it appears we have consensus to adopt the record. Next, we'll move to discussion of aggravating and mitigating factors. One piece I'd like to point out is the fact that just because there is no mitigator here today, that shouldn't really have an impact as to our aggravating or mitigating factors in the big picture of things. So that just want to make sure that that piece points out. We're going to look at the case as to how it's been presented to us. With that, I'll open the case up for discussion and to remind committee members to state your name and identify, please, any aggravating or mitigating factors.
Jack Carriger. Aggravating for me is, to me, this was a very deliberate act. And there doesn't seem to be here, even at a point in the process where the individual became more, I guess I'll say cooperative. And I think that's what concerns me the most, is just the deliberate act that he chose to take because he was confronted by this officer.
Okay, thank you. Any other aggravating or mitigating factors? Any other aggravating or mitigating factors?
Isaac McLennan, for the record. For me, I agree that the act itself it's frustrating because of the deliberate act, and I just want to reiterate that was my frustration and aggravating factors. I do find that the letters submitted of support, letters of recommendation from his coworkers are mitigating factors, and I think, you know, those folks that are work around and with him and have supported him to continue to, in some capacity, I think speak as a mitigating factor.
Thank you. Any other committee members?
Yeah, Rose Douglas for the record. So some mitigating factors, I agree with, definitely second the aggravating factors. I was able to review this case when it came through the first time, and I think we found a lot of those aggravating circumstances to outweigh the mitigating. So I have a lot more mitigating, I feel like, right now, because it has been a year, and so since we're reassessing it, looking at that time frame, he's continued the volunteerism that he had been doing, I think, for about 9 months prior to the initial review, and has continued that for another year. It's been about 3 years since the initial incident, and there's been no additional concerning incidents since then that would speak to, you know, some of the things we were concerned about, the intentional destruction of property and the intentional act. So there seems to have been a continuation from the individual to make a change from what occurred in that initial incident. Additionally, mitigating, at that time he was not employed by a fire agency, and then subsequently has developed that relationship and seems to have maybe grown since that incident due to that. That's all I've got.
Anyone else? Aggravating or mitigating? Claire?
For the record, Claire McGrew, to add a little bit as well, slightly different language. When I was reviewing the letter as well, it does appear that there is commitment to change as well, much to Rose's point as well. So there certainly has been, while no other circumstances have come up that would put this in a different spot, certainly there is personal accountability, which I could see demonstrated through the letter as well to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee member on aggravating or mitigating factors? Just for myself, Chris Heppel for the record. In this particular case, you know, I look back about consistency in behavior, and I think that's probably the biggest thing for me in this case is, while it appears we've got similar thread in terms of the egregiousness of the act, and for me the disrespect for the authority, whether it was the code enforcement officer or the sheriff who arrived on scene and then having to track the individual down while they attempted contact, I understand those pieces. From a aggravating factor. More on the mitigating side, again, I look at the behavior post-incident One is I don't believe he was involved with a public safety type of agency when this incident occurred. Second of all, he is engaged with one now, in this particular case being Cannon Beach. He's been consistent with his behavior in terms of where he wants to go and his commitment to that. And so that I appreciate that from that perspective. I think the other piece is that if I read the package correctly, he's working for the district not only as a volunteer, but as a lifeguard. And he's been consistent in his role with being on time and providing those types of life-saving capabilities and direct engagement with the community is another part which has been positive as well. And so, I look at this particular case as someone had a unfortunate incident, which admittedly they created on their own, but the recovery and the behavior since then, I would propose is certainly in a positive direction in this particular case. Are there any other members on mitigating or aggravating circumstances? Okay, hearing none, I'll turn it back over to staff to recall all the factors that were identified by members.
Thank you. Brooke Value Review for the record. So for aggravating circumstances, we have just the deliberate nature of the act and the lack of cooperation with law enforcement and code enforcement. And then for the mitigating circumstances, we have letters of support from his peers and coworkers, his continued volunteerism, the time that's lapsed since the incident, that he seems to have made a real commitment to changing his life and a commitment to personal accountability, that he was not in the fire service or public safety at the time of the incident, that he has demonstrated consistency in his behavior post-incident, and that he shows a commitment to engaging in his community. Are there any that I missed or that you would like me to add?
Okay. Hearing none, I'll look to the group to confirm look for consensus in the identifying factors. I'll look online for a nod or a thumbs up. Agreements? Okay, thank you. Looking around the room, it appears we have consensus. With that, I'll move on to recommending action or no action. So I'll call for a motion and a second to take action or no action.
Rose Douglas for the record. I moved to take no action, same way. Due to the continued demonstration of attitude and behavior that we would expect to see from somebody in the fire service, the time since the incident with no further incident, I believe has shown what fire policy was hoping would be seen by just having another year go by and assess the continuation of that behavior, whether it would return or not.
Thank you, Rose. Do I have a second?
Andre Lindauer is second for the same reasons and to highlight what Chairman Semple said.
With that, I have a motion and a second to take no action. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll turn it back to DPSST to do a roll call vote.
Addison Hockett for the record. This vote is to take no action on Andrew Lowry's case. We'll start with Committee Member Heppel.
Aye.
Committee Member McGrew.
Aye.
Committee Member Carriger.
Aye.
Committee Member Morneau.
Aye.
Committee Member Douglas. Aye. Committee Member Lindauer.
Aye.
Committee Member McLennan,
Aye.
Committee Member Denny.
Aye.
Motion carried, no action.
Okay, thank you. And that concludes agenda item number 5, the case of Andrew Lowry, DPSST number 42329. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, which is administrative action. And I believe I turn this back over to DPSST staff for presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Chantel Haas for the record. This is an administrative update for the committee. No vote will be required. Darren Houck was convicted of luring a minor in official misconduct in the first degree in accordance with their probation conditions that require them to forfeit their fire certifications. Houck has chosen to voluntarily surrender their certifications rather than go through the Fire Policy Committee discretionary case review process. As of July 16th, 2025, Houck's fire certifications are permanently surrendered, and if there are no questions related to this update, I will return this back over to the chair.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, which is proposed rule changes to the minimum standard on professional qualifications for NFPA apparatus driver/operator. In this particular case, just how we'll work through this is the DPSST will introduce the NFPA changes. We'll look for any discussion around that. We'll look for a motion and a second to recommend or not recommend that we adopt the recommendations. Then that would be a vote. Then we'll then look for a consensus on the fiscal impact. And then we'll look at a vote to approve filing. So this will be another 3-step process for everyone. With that, if Bill Ruby could summarize the NFPA 1010 apparatus task force meeting recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. Brooke Valley for the record. So in February of 2025, staff convened a task force of content experts to review the changes to NFPA 1010 in relation to apparatus driver operator series standards for certification. The task force was well attended and resulted in good discussion and guidance for staff. The key takeaways from this task force meeting were ultimately the task force recommended to adopt the 2024 edition of NFPA 1010, specifically chapters 4 and chapters 11 through 17 for apparatus driver operator levels in order to keep Oregon aligned with National Fire Service standards. The changes to the driver series were mostly related to formatting and wording. A lot of the updates were semantical and for consistency throughout the new standard. Some new job performance requirements were added. Communications, driving, and preventative maintenance JPRs were added to the wildland fire apparatus, aircraft, rescue, and firefighting, and mobile water supply levels. And the communications JPR was removed from the driver level. The certification prerequisites remained unchanged across all of the levels. For example, needing firefighter 1 prior to having your aerial, or needing to be certified as a driver before being certified as any other level in the driver series. The task force did discuss some of the general requirements in Chapter 4. One of those items was the traffic incident management training requirements. There was some good discussion about this and some concern about the information available to the fire service. Ultimately, the task force determined that it is adequately addressed throughout the state. However, staff is going to offer more guidance about training options to meet these requirements in the certification guide. NFPA, as part of the annex, they also recommend annual evaluations of personnel through continuing education or skills demonstrations. At this time, the standard uses should versus shall, and the task force agreed that for now, AHJs should set their own annual competency evaluation process, and then in relation to DPSST's biennial maintenance process, if the NFPA changes would impact that process, we would review our process and make updates as necessary. The task force asked for clearer guidance in relation to individuals applying for wildland fire suppression, formerly known as wildland fire apparatus, and mobile water supply levels. So right now, there are 2 routes to be certified in those levels. You can take a wildland fire apparatus class or a mobile water supply apparatus class and complete the task book. The other alternative is to become a certified pumper and then complete one of the other 2 task books without completing a class. This is completely up to the AHJ. So if the AHJ has classes that they want to put in place, they can. But if they choose to go the task book only route, they are also able to do that. So we are going to put some more information about that in the guide, so that we've gotten some calls about it, and there was discussion on the task force about it. So we just want to make sure that that's clear. And some of the flexibility in that is related to the fact that there hasn't really been good curriculum updated and available for the fire service for those 2 levels. So hopefully that will change, but for now, we're leaving that flexibility up to the AHJs. The application for certification was updated to reflect the new JPRs, and then there is a section with some more clear instructions that were just kind of updated from what it had been as the last 10 years, which hopefully will help people with filling out the application and understanding how the process is supposed to work. And then for the task books, they discussed the task books, which currently all of the task books have the full driver tasks in the beginning of each other task book. So to clarify, the task force wanted information to be added that we would keep the driver series task books in, we would keep the driver task books in each subsequent level, but that the tasks are intended to be completed on an appropriate apparatus related to that level of certification. So you would be completing your aerial tasks for driver in an aerial apparatus. And then the number of sign-offs is to be reduced from 3 to 1. You may notice in your task books that they were not. I missed that. So before these are published, that will be corrected. And Rose noted a couple other things, that some of the spacing might be off, as well as the need to put the AHJs are allowed to sign off on the communication tasks or other appropriate tasks that have been completed or fulfilled through certification in another level. For example, communication. So we're going to include a note in the task book itself for clarification of where they can actually do that, so that it's a little bit more clear. And we'll also put that in the guide, so that will all be updated prior to public use of these. The guide for certification will be revised to reflect the new standard, and then that will also be a working document. So if anybody on the committee notices anything, or anyone on the task force notices anything, we will update that as needed. Are there any questions or concerns about anything seen in the task book documents? With that, I will turn it over to Jen for explanation of the rule changes related to the standard update.
Thanks, Brooke. Chair Howell, members of the committee, Jennifer Howell for the record. So this is on page 6 of the memo, as where the administrative rule changes begin. And so when we're updating a standard, we're usually updating 3 rules. 259, 009, 005 has definitions. The definitions describe each certification with its title and its basis. 259-009-0062 for certifications outlines what's required in order to get that certification, and then the 0065 is the one reflecting maintenance. So in the first rule for definitions on page 6, what we've done is updated the title format based on recommendations of or discussions and recommendations of the task force. That resulted in reordering for alphabetical order within the definition rule. So you'll see the strike through of the old definition replaced by the new definition. In addition to the title changes, there are just a few word changes that align the definition with what is used in the NFPA standard when it's describing the certification level. In Rule 62 on page 7, looking at the certifications. So the NFPA standard 1010 has merged previously individual standards, a total of, I think, 4 of them. And so the first one is in section A, and that was updated previously for the support person in firefighter 1 and firefighter 2. So now that we're adopting the NFPA 1010 standard for the apparatus, we're taking where it was previously a separate standard and merging it with under the 1010. So you'll see we're adopting standard 1010, and it reflects all the chapters that have been adopted so far. And it moves those certifications up into section A. They're all presented in the same order in which they're found within the standard. And it still continues to reflect the revised title and the prerequisites for each of the certifications. So that will also result in some renumbering of the rest of the administrative rule, which isn't included because that would be an additional 30 pages of just changing B to C and C to D and so on and so forth. The final rule 65 for maintenance, all we've done there again is updated the title references, put them in alphabetical order, and adjusted the list. But those changes do not change any of the requirements for maintenance. We're just formalizing the title use. I also have the information regarding the fiscal and economic impact statements, and but before I jump into that, I'll pause for any questions or discussion on the rule language. Okay, going on to the fiscal impact statements. So we've outlined some of the changes that you've already heard Brooke describe there at the beginning of the fiscal impact statements on 12 and 13. But to really dive in and summarize, there is a potential fiscal impact. With adopting the new standard, as Brooke outlined, there are some changes to the job performance requirements. But it's immeasurable. We can't put a price on it or measure it because of the variances across the state. It will depend on the size of the agency, what training is available, geographic locations, individual training needs, additional record keeping perhaps for adding those additional job performance requirements. But also on the flip side of that, for the most part, the new job performance requirements seems to be minimal additions. So when you're looking at preventative maintenance, it consists of the visual and operational checks of the components and systems that are specific to that apparatus. Driving and communication also add demonstration of skills specific to situations that correspond with the apparatus being used. We did note that while the titles have changed and updated, there won't be any retroactive reissuing of certifications. So anyone who already holds these certifications just continues to hold the certification with the old title. No fiscal impacts to DPSST or the board. No other state agencies were identified as affected, no members of the public. So local government that could be affected would include any city, county, or other local entities with fire service agencies. And again, was that unknown, that potential cost. And then that would also apply to small businesses. We do recognize that there are a handful of fire service agencies that do qualify as a small business. Be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, with that, Chris Hubble for the record, is there any discussion as to the presentation of the NFPA 1010 apparatus task force meeting, the changes to the OAR rules or physical impact statement? Any discussion or questions for staff or amongst the board?
Rose Douglas for the record. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to publicly thank DPSST staff and all the members of the task force for their work on it. It is, anybody who's been on a task force knows it is no small feat to go through all those NFPA standards and to make sure that we're in a line and doing the best we can as a state. So thank you to DPSST staff and the members of the task force listed here.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a motion and a second to recommend or not recommend that the board adopt recommendations provided by the NFPA apparatus task force.
Jack Carragher, I recommend that we adopt the presentation by DPSST on the standard.
Permagrove, second.
And we have a second. So we have a motion and a second to recommend the adoption of the recommendations provided by the NFPA apparatus task force. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to DPSST staff for a roll call vote.
This vote is to recommend the board adopts the recommendations made by the NFPA apparatus driver operator task force. Start with committee member Heppel.
Aye.
Committee member McGrew.
Aye.
Committee member Carragher.
Aye.
Committee member Morneau.
Aye.
Committee member Douglas.
Aye.
Committee member Lindauer.
Aye.
Committee member McLennan.
Aye.
Committee member Denny.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Great. Next, our task is to look for consensus to affirm or amend the physical impact statement. With that, I'll ask the committee, does anyone have any reasons to amend the physical impact statement? Any reasons to amend it? Hearing none, I'll just simply look for consensus to affirm the physical impact statement. I'll start with online. Looks like some nods, thumbs up. Great, thank you very much. In the room, okay. It appears we have a consensus to affirm the physical impact statement. Next, I'll look for a call. I'm going to have a call for a motion and a second to approve the filing proposed rule changes for OAR 259-009-005 and OAR 259-009-0062 and OAR 259-009-0065 as permanent rule. Again, looking for a motion and a second to approve the filing of the proposed rule.
Rose Douglas for the record. I propose we approve the filing as stated by Chief Heppel. Chair Heppel, sorry.
A motion, looking for a second.
Jack Carragher, second.
And Chief Carragher seconds, and this will be I'll turn it back over to the DPSST staff for a roll call vote for approving the filing proposed rule changes to the OARs listed.
This vote is to approve, the board approves filing the proposed rule change. Chair Heppel.
Aye.
Member McGrew.
Aye.
Member Carragher.
Aye.
Member Morneau.
Aye.
Member Douglas.
Aye.
Member Lindauer.
Aye.
Member McLennan.
Aye.
Member Denny.
Aye.
Motion
My note includes on to agenda number 8, which are some proposed rule changes around some housekeeping rule changes, and we'll be looking for a consensus vote required on that. First, we'll turn it back over to DPSST staff to present the rule changes and the fiscal impact.
Thank you, Chair Apple. Jennifer Howell for the record. We're again going to take a quick look at those administrative rules for fire certifications, definitions, the certification requirements, and maintenance. So you're very familiar, we hope that DPSST facilitates the task forces, and the task forces make recommendations on updating standards. From time to time, they will also make recommendations that eliminate certifications. And those are generally done through almost a phase-out process where we choose a timeline in which we stop issuing certifications, and then they would just go through the process of becoming inactive after the subsequent maintenance cycle ends. So they wouldn't be eligible to be recertified in those. So what we've done is gone through the administrative rule to collect what has been phased out so that we can remove it from the rule and therefore keep the rules as simple as possible. Outlines in your memo, this will be going through and removing fire ground leader, which was phased out 2019 to 2022. A very old reference to something called Hazardous Materials Responder DPSST P12. And that is such an old one that we don't actually know what it is. There's a guess that it was the certification that was in place before NFPA 472, and that certification itself was replaced in 2018. And those 472 certifications were phased out, so we're also taking those out. There's also the listed urban search and rescue certifications, a handful of those. The last time that the urban search and rescue task force met, they recommended basically archiving a set of certifications and then maintaining 4 certifications. So there are still 4 USNR certifications that are active. And these certifications, they use the term archive. They were meant to just kind of close for a little while and be eligible for reopening later. But now that time has passed, we realized that if we were to ever reopen them, we would need the task force to come back and make sure that all of the requirements were current and necessary and go through this entire administrative rule process. So it will be cleaner just to go ahead and take out references to archived and to remove those since they're no longer active certifications, just as we're removing the other ones. So what you have in your pages of the administrative rules is we've taken, just for the simplification process, everything that's going to be deleted from those rules. It's shown with the strike-through language, and then some minor amendments to the definition of NFPA 472. In the maintenance rule, we only have one certification title that was left in that one that needed to be removed for fire ground leader. So for a fiscal impact statement summary, there is no fiscal impact. This is a cleanup process, but I'd be happy to answer any questions or have discussion if somebody thought that there were some things that we might have missed in that assessment. Process-wise, in recognition that these are the same administrative rules that we are just recommending changing under NFPA 1010. Process-wise, they will be filed as 2 separate changes. That way, when it's going through the public comment process, if there is comment on one but not on the other, we would be able to continue moving forward with anything that doesn't have any opposition. And then potentially later when we actually submit the permanent rule change, we could probably just file them at the same time. So all of the changes would be layered in together. But thank you so much. And again, happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Let's see here. Did you address the physical impact statement piece?
Just that
Yeah,
there,
just there was, okay.
that there wasn't any that we identified.
It was so short, because I
It
usually
was
like,
so short.
yeah. No paper saving costs here, or anything? Okay, all right. With that, is there any further discussion on the housekeeping rule changes? Okay, with that, I'll call for a motion and a second to recommend or not recommend that the board adopt the recommendations provided by the, provided by staff for the housekeeping rule changes.
Isaac McGlennon, make a motion to adopt the changes.
Thank you. Second?
Rose Douglas for the record, I second.
Okay, so we have a second. So we have a motion and a second to recommend the adoption of the recommendations provided by staff around the housekeeping rule changes. We don't need a vote that's needed with that, but well, I'm going to look for consensus, correct? Or is it the one you need to vote because those
To
are
adopt,
scratched?
wait, sorry, so for consensus for the fiscal impact.
Okay, let me go back to that. All right, we'll then turn it back over to DPSST staff for a roll call vote to recommend the board adopt the recommendations provided by staff.
This vote is to recommend the board approves filing the proposed rule change. We'll go Chair Heppel,
Aye.
Committee Member Carragher,
Aye.
Committee Member McGrew,
Aye.
Committee Member Morneau,
Aye.
Committee Member Douglas, Committee Member Lindauer,
Aye.
Committee Member McLennan,
Aye.
Committee Member Denny.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, next, we'll move on just for a consensus to affirm or amend the fiscal impact stated presented by DPSST staff. Looking to the committee members, is there any reasons to amend the fiscal impact statement? Hearing none, I'll look for consensus to affirm the fiscal impact statement. I'll start online, looking for a thumbs up or nods. Excellent, looking around the room. We have consensus to affirm the fiscal impact statement. What's that?
Covers it, yeah,
What's
this
that?
one, sorry, this one was confusing.
So
There
it's-
was just the consensus and the vote, and they approved to file it, so we're,
Because we did that previously.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so one less vote we gotta do. Excellent.
And Isaac McGlennon, for record, that in my book anyway, the consensus for the
We got
consensus
it
for the
backwards.
economic statement comes first, then once that, because that can be changed theoretically, right? Without consensus, if there was no consensus on the, before we vote on the actual adoption of the, right? Am I right, am I correct in that, or is that, or is it supposed to be, are we supposed to do the economic statement after we've actually?
No, we kind of got this mixed up. So the discussion about the rule changes in general, there was not really any. And then whether we needed to amend the fiscal impact and coming to consensus that we didn't need to amend that would have happened first, but we accidentally voted. The previous rule change had 3 pieces and this one only has 2. So we just got the order slightly wrong, but in the motion that you guys made, you approved filing the rule changes, which is the only vote that we needed for that, if that makes sense. Probably just making it more confusing at this point. But we did cover our bases.
Good?
Yeah, that's true.
All right. That should complete agenda number 8, proposed rule changes and housekeeping rule changes. Moving on to agenda number 9, and in this case, it's Brian R. Woolgamont. I probably butchered that disappointingly. Around the Fireland Firefighter Memorial Wall nomination. With that, I'll turn it over to DPSST staff, Brooke Bell Ruby, for a summary.
Brooke Belly for the record. So as the chair stated, this is for the Oregon Fallen Firefighter Memorial Wall nomination. So after a 2-year battle with cancer, United States Fish and Wildlife Service fire planner, Brian Wilgamot, died on November 28th of 2024. His cancer was designated as occupational by the United States Department of Labor Office Workers' Compensation Program. According to the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation, which is the criteria that Oregon follows for inclusion on the memorial wall, eligibility for inclusion on the national wall refers to the decedent's home state cancer presumption laws. In summary, Oregon's cancer presumption laws will consider the cancer occupational if it is rectal cancer, if it resulted from the firefighter's employment as a non-volunteer, and if it was diagnosed after 2009, and it was already, separately, it was already designated as occupational by the Federal Department of Labor Office Workers' Compensation Program. Because his cancer is considered occupational on both the state and federal level, he is already going to be included on the National Memorial Wall, so DPSST is recommending him to be included on the Oregon Memorial Wall as well. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the chair for discussion and vote.
Okay. Chris Hubble, for the record, is there any discussion around this particular nomination? Okay, any discussion around this nomination? Okay. With that, I'll call for a motion and a second to include firefighter Brian Wilgamot on the Oregon Fallen Firefighters Memorial Wall.
Claire McGrew for the record. The motion to include firefighter Brian Wilgamot as a name on the wall.
Is there a second?
Jack Perry,
Andre Lindauer, second.
Thank you. Got the seconds. Perfect. So we have a motion and a second to include firefighter Brian Wilgamot on the Oregon Fallen Firefighters Memorial Wall. If DPSST staff could call a roll call vote.
This vote is to confirm Brian Wilgamot's inclusion on the Oregon Fallen Firefighters Memorial Wall. Start with Chair Heppel.
Aye.
Committee Member Carragher.
Aye.
Committee Member McGrew.
Aye.
Committee Member Douglas. Aye. Committee Member Lindauer.
Aye.
Committee Member Morneau.
Aye.
Committee Member Denny. Committee Member Denny.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Thanks to the committee for your work on that. All right, next we're at agency update. If I'll introduce Director Phil Castle for the agency update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Phil Castle for the record. First thing I want to say is thank you very much to the committee. It is a big time commitment to review all the materials that you have to review for these fire policy committee meetings, so I'm super grateful to you for doing it. It's a pretty heavy responsibility what we do in this room here, so I really appreciate you for being here and not getting paid. So thanks very much for doing that. I also want to thank the staff. There's a lot of work that goes into creating these, putting these books together, and they do so professionally, and so I really appreciate the work by the staff to put this together. I'm going to stay pretty high level for agency updates. I think there's several operational updates that Kayla and team have for you. I'm going to talk a lot about, or a little bit about the state's financial future. Our revenue forecast was released this morning, and it shows a $888 million reduction in general fund revenue, which is a huge, large hit for the state. The state is also predicting a $15 billion shortfall over the next 3 bienniums, which is a pretty long-term prediction, but it's based on federal fund reductions to our state going over the next 3 bienniums, the largest of which will happen in the 3rd biennium predicted to be $9 billion. How that will be addressed, we don't know yet. I would expect to see short session will be starting to address that, starting to figure out how the state is going to adjust to that shortfall. So more to come on that. As far as DPSST and how we are postured right now, there is no change for ourselves. We are really looking for technological efficiencies going forward. We have two systems that large changes that we'll be going forward with. One is a case management system, which we hope is going to make us efficient in several areas, including fire. We hope that fire will be able to leverage this case management system, and that everybody in the room will benefit from the learning management system. We are starting to lean forward on getting a project manager for the learning management system. It will be funded by bonds that will be cashed out probably in the spring. We'll be cashing out the bonds that will fund the learning management system as we go into the actual installation of this. Our primary focus, one, is get the learning management system up and operational. Our first priority of projects will be doing projects that will support Oregon's volunteer firefighters. They are most in need of our the learning that we can apply online, so we will be focusing on them as we go forward with the learning management system. I would expect it will take us every bit of 2 years, maybe a little bit more, to do the installation of that learning management system. Other than that, DPSST as a whole is doing great. We're fully staffed on our leadership team, which is also very good. And I want to open the floor for any questions that any members of the committee might have for me before I turn it over to, okay, turn it over to Kathy.
Who's going to be the lead Chris Heppel for the record. Who's the lead agency for implementation? Is it DPSST?
It's DPSST.
And what other state organizations will also be on board with this? I don't think it's just DPSST.
So it's going to be OSFM, it's going to be OEM, and potentially the state police. We don't know yet if they will be partnered with us yet, but definitely OSFM and OEM.
Okay. Cool, thank you.
Question down here. Isaac, one for the record. I'm sort of finding it's like one aspect, DPSST is fully staffed, funded, firing all cylinders, and then the first thing you said, which was we're looking at some major deficit. I'm concerned. Why is that? First of all, I don't know why that. It seems dramatic, is it? I guess I'm just looking for some information on how, what do you think is going to happen to this agency and its ability to do its job? I'm just curious. Maybe that's too much to ask, but what do you think you could provide in that vein that you feel comfortable saying on the record? I guess, as the rest on the record potentially.
Well, thanks for not putting me on the spot. Just kidding. That's our job, is to be on the spot with that. And I did bring my crystal ball. She's sitting right next to me here. No. It's a tough question to answer. I'll tell you what I think. We are primarily funded by CFA, criminal fines account. We also, on the fire side, are funded by FIPT. I believe that was somewhere in the neighborhood of, $7 million?
For the next biennium, yeah.
For the next biennium, $7 million. I don't predict those two fund sources to run out. DPSST is funded at 60% of the total CFA, which was around 105 million total revenue for the criminal fines account. We are the primary benefactor of that account. And there are many agencies underneath us on terms of priority to get that money, but agencies continue to fall off as that account shrinks a little bit. CFA is going down slightly, and we expect it to level off, right? We expect that to level off, and we will continue to be the benefactor of that. Now, unknown is CFA is fungible with general fund. So if there was a desire to sweep some of that money into general fund, it could be done. It historically, has that been done? Not to my awareness. It is not done very often. But who knows what will happen. I will say that DPSST is and I don't expect FIPT, Claire would probably know better than me, but I don't expect FIPT to go down. I expect that to remain, and the governor has been very clear about her priorities are on fire, and that we need to take care of our state when it comes to fire readiness. We all know, and Claire can speak to this better than me, that it's just getting worse. Our summers are getting hotter, and we have to be prepared. And the governor continues to reiterate her commitment to public safety, and which I have seen nothing contrary to that at all. So I predict that we're going to continue to be able to do our mission and support our constituency out there in the state. That's my prediction on that. Will there be potential cuts for us? I don't know. You know, I don't know how the legislature will approach the shortfall. It will be in short session will be very telling. But we are in a good position. We have no backlog right now, which is not many academies around the United States can say that. And we just finished meeting with all of those academies in Georgia. And we are positioned well, and we've been quite strategic in how we've done things. So I'm optimistic still.
Appreciate that answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions for me before I turn it over to Deputy Director? And thanks for that question.
Yeah. Kathy McAlpine, Deputy Director. And just adding to that, as we were having this meeting, the revenue forecast was unveiled at 9 a.m. And so I think there'll be more information at what level of interpretation, I don't know, but it will be available. And I'm sure a lot of media outlets will be covering how we projected what we are projecting. With that, the only thing I want to add that the director talked about again was the case management system. Having been the Professional Standards Division Director, having to see how we are piecemealing our information and kind of counting on our fingers and toes of how many cases we close, how many we open, things of that nature. I am as excited because I believe this will give us a level of efficiency that we haven't had yet to see how long it's taking us, how many open cases. I know fire doesn't have the heavy lift that some of the other disciplines do, but what we hope to be able to give to all of you then is that anecdotal data. What are we seeing when we do take action? What are they and what kind of types, whether it's criminal convictions or behavior. And so to be able to do a deeper analysis, to be able to share that data with the various disciplines is going to be something that I think everybody will want to kind of glean from that. And even when you're doing presentations, we can be able to then say, give you talking points on what trends we're seeing over the last couple of years. So as we move forward, we hope to give you updates and let you know what that looks like. So the data side of me and efficiency is extremely excited, probably more than most people. The other thing for situational awareness, because it just was decided on yesterday, as the director mentioned, people are still hiring, still needing space in the academy. We were notified of a surge that PPB, Portland Police Bureau, was able to do. So we are adding a 5th basic academy that will start October 27th. And I just informed Kayla of that yesterday. So she'll take a look to see if there's any impacts to the training environment that may or may not come. And hopefully that gives you plenty of time to sit there and mitigate any potential impacts to any fire training that we have on site, which oftentimes happens on the weekends and evenings. But again, situational awareness, so we are adding another class. We will be full to include corrections all here on the campus. For a couple weeks, we'll have all those 5 basic classes and others. So with that then, I will turn it over to Kayla for more details.
Thank
on
you.
other things.
Thank you. Kayla Ballrat, Fire Program Manager. For the record,
So our goal is to, I know we're already talking about this, but our goal is to open Winter Fire School registration on September 2nd. So as usual, that will be the third weekend in February. We've got 9 National Fire Academy classes lined up for that. Those are the ones they give us for free, which we're very grateful for. We also have vehicle extrication like we usually do, and we will, the third thing that we will have this year, brand new, is potentially an NFPA support person. So we are going to do a support person academy. It'll be hybrid, so those students will have to show up already having done some online work and then show up here for their hands-on portions for the weekend. We've got a couple of staff members really kind of delving into the new support person certification, and they've got a curriculum. They're going to put on hopefully a few academies here and there before we do the Winter Fire School one, work out some kinks. So they're getting some good feedback already from their regions and some potential locations and some excited people for that. So yeah, we're excited to try that out, and you know, if it works out and people sign up for it, they'll leave that academy being able to apply for the support person certification. And just as a reminder, that you all helped kind of get that into Oregon Administrative Rule, but that is the new level of certification. It's Firefighter 1 Light, so not intended for people who are going to be a Firefighter 1 level of certification, but more for people who just kind of, you know, they help out around the department, they help out maybe on scene, but they don't actually fight fires. So yeah, that's great news. So look out for that very shortly, the registration opening. We also have several NFA classes coming up. So as you all know, or maybe remember, NFA did have to take a pause, and we had to cancel a couple of 6-day classes. They're back up and running, and we were able to reschedule those classes that we had to temporarily cancel. One of them is full, that's a command and control class, but there is a wait list. And then the other one, we are looking for about 6 more people to sign up so that we can make it a go, because NFA requires 15 people to be signed up for that. So that's demonstrating your community risk reduction program's worth. And it'll be end of October here at DPSST, free lodging, free meals, all that fun stuff. So those are on our Eventbrite. Take a look at those if you have any people that are interested. And then a third command and control class in January that's already full as well. So again, there's a wait list, but yeah, those go fast. So you gotta be on it for those. And then additionally, we have some 2-day classes throughout Oregon. Oregon always takes advantage of the 2-day classes that other states don't take. So we were able to kind of snag some classes that other states didn't want. We'll have some, it's mostly ICS classes, so we'll have some at Mohawk Valley outside of Eugene, and we will have a few at Coos Bay. So those are coming up, and then we're also going to have a health and safety one at Pendleton. So only one of those so far registration is open for, and we will be opening registration for those very shortly. Those are almost always on our Eventbrite page, so check that out. We'll announce it in the newsletter as well. The 5 Corners plan is going well, so just as a reminder, that was the kind of strategically placed law enforcement and fire joint trainings throughout Oregon that we were doing this year. So we already had some. Coos Bay and the Dalles had an active threat, two separate classes. That would be crazy joint training. 2 separate classes. And then we also had an off-road vehicle class at Bachelor. So all of those went great. And upcoming, we will have an off-road vehicle class in Union County and Douglas County. The Union County class, I think there's still spots. It's in September. The Douglas County one filled up immediately, and all of the spots were taken by firefighters. So that's excellent news for us. We might have to schedule another one, so maybe police can get in there and do some training there. But and then the 6th one, I know this is the 5 Corners plan, so we want to make note that we are going above and beyond potentially. We're trying to work out an active threat class in Tillamook. So more to come on that if we're able to kind of line up dates and locations and things like that. Our fiscal year 2023 AFG grant, we're kind of starting to get props in for that. So we actually yesterday just had a roof vent prop delivered for that. And of course you all probably know we have multiple roof vent props already, but the goal is to have multiple in each location. So there's less drive time, more time with fire service, less wear and tear on the props. So yeah, that should be up and out pretty soon. We've just got to do some internal inventory and things like that. So very exciting. And then we're also closer to getting the other props that we asked for in 2023, which were 2 flag props and 1 vehicle fire prop. Still no news on the 2024 fiscal year AFG grant, as some of you maybe also know who also applied for that. So we're still kind of just playing the waiting game, seeing if we get that award as well. We asked for a bunch of additional props with that too, just to really bolster our cadre of props. Brooke is putting together an airport firefighter task force. I think she has maybe like 5 or 6 people interested in that. We're looking for a few more. That one's not one that we, firefighter and wildland, those always have 50 people that are interested. We have to whittle it down to 20 or so. So this one isn't quite as popular, but if you have an airport in your area, people certified that might be interested in joining that, please let Brooke know. So hopefully we can get just a good variety of people on that task force, and then eventually we'll present you with the rule changes for that. And then the last thing I had is you probably noticed that Chantel here is a new face around the table. She joined us at this point several months ago, but we haven't had a meeting in a little bit. So she's not a new face to us. She comes from our private security section, but she is our compliance specialist, and eventually she will be presenting all of the revocation and denial cases. So we didn't want to give her too many things right off the bat while she's still learning and observing. Yeah, you will be seeing and hearing more from her in the future, as well as Brooke, who will still keep the standard updates and LODD memos and things like that. So it won't be just Brooke talking for the entire meeting.
No, you guys are all sad.
And those were the updates that I had, unless anyone has any questions.
Any questions for DPSSD staff?
Claire McGrew, for the record, maybe not a question, but just a moment of thanks for you, Director Castle, and Kayla specifically for sponsoring us to be able to come to DPSST and bring some of our fire service and other partners to do a burn demonstration earlier this year. The facility is always top notch. Your staff being able to help us was critical, and we continue to receive very positive remarks on the professionalism that display was able to deliver to media, to members of the public. So thank you so much for that. Also on the heels of that, I don't have any updates on fire insurance premium tax, but I do think it's a good note because it is an other fund component that used to primarily fund our agency, and we work closely in partnership with DPSST on that. But from what I understand, it's also on that, it's not included in what the initial forecasting is for general fund dollars, but also full transparency. I know some of that impacts things downstream, so we're also looking to see where that's going to lead us. Awesome, thank you both.
Any other questions, comments for DPSSC staff? Chris Hepple, for the record, I just want to allow the other comments for folks. Just Director, your staff has always been amazing. Kayla, thanks for your patience with me and emails and back and forth. So thank you so much for that piece and your patience. Sometimes I can be a pain in the backside, so I want to be thankful of that piece. And just the work that your team does to put these things together is just top notch, so professional. Thank you for that. With that, our next meeting is scheduled for November 20th, 2025 here at DPSST at 0900. With that, I will close the fire policy.
Can you just confirm November 20th or 19th? This is 19th.
Oh, yeah.
Did I write the wrong?
Could be.
I'm working on 19.
I'm sorry.
You know what? Hearing the change, we'll go with November 19th. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Please update your calendars appropriately.